The latest on this is there was an amended lawsuit filed yesterday, which was that deadline to respond to that email from Elon Musk. And it's just saying basically on behalf of federal employees, you can't just fire people for not responding to an email.
Yeah, you to get fired via Twitter to let you know that, hey, I'm going to send you this email in a couple minutes. You'll get this email. And if you don't respond, oh, by the way, you'll be terminated. That's kind of not how any of this works. So let's go back a couple steps. The updated lawsuit mentions what they clearly should mention in the beginning, that under the Administrative Procedure Act, you're first required to provide notice. Prior to February 22nd, 2025, no notice was published in a Federal Register or anywhere regarding any OPM program, rule, policy, or regulation requiring federal employees to respond to an email. Because you haven't given them notice, because it hasn't been posted, because there hasn't been an opportunity to give feedback, that none of that is supposed to work like this. And so these are acts. They're not recommendations. They're not suggestions. These are laws. This is the guidance that's given to these agencies on how they're supposed to operate. By who? By Congress. So one individual, i.e. Elon Musk, is not able to dictate to these federal employees how they're supposed to respond, specifically when they have oversight in their individual agencies. That's why I commend Kash Patel for saying, look, don't respond to that. We have our own review policy. Thank you for making a suggestion, but we'll handle this. Hold my beer. I'll take care of the rest. Basically is what he told him as nice as he could via social media as well. So while we're governing through the internet, folks are being hurt in the middle because now you have to figure out, well, do I respond? Do I not respond? Do I have a job on Monday if I don't respond? You shouldn't have to worry about that. That's why you have the protections there as a federal employee.
And you mentioned the OMP, right? So what is that office and what's their role in all of this?
They're like the gatekeepers of all personal information. It's the Office of Personnel Management. But the way this President Trump's administration has attempted to utilize that is it's an all ever catching management of all other agencies. And that's not what it's supposed to do. What it's supposed to do is centralize and hub your information, you and I information, government employees information. But it's not supposed to dictate or tell other agencies how they're supposed to operate. They're not like the overarching umbrella of HR management and then all these other agencies answer to them. That's not how it's ever been used, and that's not how it was created under the constitutional and congressional authority. What it is dictated there to do is to manage and to house employee information so we have one centralized location for an HR system, but not an HR entity like in the private sector. And Elon has said this happens in the private sector. But the difference between the federal government and the private sector is that in one company, that HR body does have oversight under each and every individual employee there. The Office of Personnel Management does not have oversight over those employees, and that is going to be the problem. I think any court that sees this will strike this down eventually. It has to go through the normal checks and balances of the process of having an administrative hearing, having a review process, having an opportunity to be heard, giving notice that this change is even happening, and not via social media and not via email.
Well, and speaking of court, do you see this happening fairly quickly for striking that down like you're predicting?
I think this initial lawsuit, I think that the plaintiffs that have brought this have great standing, have legs to stand on in the court, would be far fresh to say, you know what, I don't buy your argument. I think as the Trump administration figures out how to implement the things they want to, they'll first have to recognize that we have a number of acts, laws that are placed in place to protect these federal employees. President Trump said in that opening piece that you have folks not reporting to work. So if you want to address that, there's a process. You will post notice. They'll have an opportunity to be heard. And then they will make adjustments and say, hey, if you don't report to work 5 days a week, now you can be terminated. But typically that's like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Not one day.
Gotcha. All right. So we'll see how quickly that plays out in court. But obviously a lot of people raising their eyebrows at that email. Khalif, thank you.